This is Six Tackles with Gus, with Matthew Thompson and Gus Gould.
Welcome to Six Tackles with Gus for another week. Great to be with you. No shortage of fodder to discuss today on the program. The biggest lineup of ANZAC Day Footy ever. We'll relive some of Gus's favourite moments across the decades and we'll ponder what might happen at a sold-out Allianz tomorrow. Part-time para. Where to for the Eels? As the players pledge their allegiance to coach Brad Arthur, Newcastle and Canberra lose the player that they can't do without. And where does Finucane rank among the game's great toilers? He announced his retirement yesterday. Welcome, Gus.
Matthew Thompson, how are you doing?
Terrific. I'm looking forward to tomorrow. Sold out 40-odd thousand at this wonderful new ground. We've done you've seen stacks of ANZAC Days. I've called a number of them now. They are very special events in themselves.
Yeah, back many years ago, I played in a couple of ANZAC Day clashes a long time ago, but I was actually involved with the Roosters when this traditional clash was first started, the Dragons and the Roosters, and two great fan bases, wonderful atmosphere, and just great for rugby league to be a part of the overall national celebration of ANZAC Day and what it means to our country. And I would hope that never ends. And it's a special day. It's the players look forward to it. I know the two clubs and the fans look forward to it. 3 games on ANZAC this day for the NRL, being a part of those national celebrations, which is really good.
It's been a game in Melbourne for many years now.
It's South Sydney this year. Usually the Warriors would come over, but I think the Warriors have got their own.
Warriors got their own.
Yeah.
Which is appropriate given the ANZAC spirit. I actually had a quick chat with David Middleton before we came in here. The ANZAC, so football on ANZAC Day actually goes back to the 20s.
Yeah.
And it's I don't know whether it's been played every ANZAC Day, but this traditional Roosters-Dragons clash has been in the schedule since 2002, but ANZAC Day Rugby League and probably sport generally has a long tradition on that day.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember playing my last year I played for South Sydney and I was playing against my old club, the Bulldogs, and it was a cricket ground, which was very, traditional and great heritage, and it was a wonderful occasion, and we went out to play against the Bulldogs. I'm playing for South and playing against all my mates at the Bulldogs, and old war veteran came out and did the bugle at the last post and did all that really nicely, and the two chairmen, and they started to waddle off the field. Anyway, there was the kick-off, and the first kick-off of the game, Canterbury kicked off, and the ball goes down to our winger, Ross Harrington. He runs it up. Peter Kelly, the Canterbury's front rower, comes down, coat hangers him, knocks him out, and gets sent off. Yep. And rumour has it he beat the bugler back to the members' stand.
It's funny.
He ran past him on the way off. Our chub Salmon thought he'd forgotten his mouth guard. So now he's been sent off.
I don't think Peter Kelly would have worn a mouth guard.
First tackle of the game.
Hey, Bulldogs golf day yesterday. Did you have a hit?
No, I didn't. No.
Oh, bugger.
No, I got back issues, mate. Back and neck issues. Just getting too old for golf. I used to love golf. I played 6 days a week.
You've been threatening to play golf for a while, though.
Well, I'd love to get back into it. My father begged me to play golf when I was a young fella, and I just didn't. I was football and cricket, and then rugby league took over. And then when I retired from playing rugby league, I found I needed something competitive to do, like something personal and competitive, and golf was the perfect thing. And I was living near a golf course at the time, so I went down and started to practice at it, and I got pretty good at it, and I actually became quite obsessed with it. So
it's a very addictive sport, isn't it?
At various times where I've had time off the field, there was a time there for a number of years where I was just working with media and not working in football clubs from about 2004 to about 2011. So during that period there, I got very obsessive about it. I got down to a 2 handicap, and I was playing regular golf and playing in competitions and doing all that, but it also ruined my back, and I've had 2 back surgeries since, and I've got neck problems from football, and I just don't get the time these days. No. I don't get the time to go out and play. And if I do go out and play, because you don't play, you play badly, I get annoyed with it. So I don't want to play unless I can play well.
Geez, a wily old coach once told me to manage my expectations. It sounds like you should take some of your own advice.
Well, I have, because I don't go.
Hey,
I'm managing my expectations.
By not turning up.
I don't put myself through it.
People get bored when we talk about golf. I'm trying to get my youngest into golf. He's 15. He's a keen cricketer, so I thought that would transfer. And he's all right. But we went and played 9 holes at Leno the other day.
Well, that's where I used to live.
Yeah. So Jacob's got this thing where he refuses to look for golf balls that he hits in the rough. Yeah. So I reckon, honestly, we've played probably 3 rounds. I reckon he's lost 50 balls, and this is not an exaggeration.
Tell him to start paying for them.
Well, I tried on one of the fairways at this golf club, it sort of goes down into a gully where there'd be thousands of golf balls. I thought I need to try and get some golf balls back here. So I went down there hunting around for one and probably found about 3 of them. And I just instinctively stopped. I'm like, I don't know what came over me. I just stopped moving. And I looked up and no more than a foot away was a massive red belly black snake staring me straight in the face. Yeah. And can I say shit? Shit myself. Yeah. And I've screamed at the top of my lungs and this thing went and just sort of slithered off. I'm like, oh, thank goodness for that.
I was playing.
It was 2 foot long, this thing.
I used to go out and practice at Camden Lakeside, lovely public course out there at Catherine Hills. And then I'd ring Dad up and Dad would come up and play 9 holes with me in the afternoon. And Dad was a very, very good golfer.
Yeah, you've told me about that.
Yeah, very, very good golfer. And I was standing on the 8th tee there one day and I'm just about to hit my drive and he said, stand still. And I said, what? He said, stand still. And I thought he was going to show me something about my alignment or my stance because he was always coaching me, he was a good coach. And I said, what am I doing wrong? He said, just stand still. And I'm standing still and then this black snake just slithered between my legs. Oh. And I looked at it. He said, don't move, it won't hurt you. Because he was a country bloke. He'd been dealing with, so. Oh. But I thought he was going to align. I thought I must have been aiming at the dam or something or other. He said, stand still. Lucky I didn't move. I might have got bitten. Snakes on golf course. Don't go looking for your balls in the rough on golf courses.
Well, mate, this is how many golf balls I've gone through. I thought I did try and get a few back here. It nearly cost me a sit in hospital.
Well, the idea is to hit them straight, keep them on the fairway.
I know. Yeah. Jacob, Uncle Gus says hit them straight.
That's it.
I'm terrified of snakes. Terrified. I'd send a cold shiver through my body, that bloody red belly black snake. If it was a brown snake, he'd have come after me.
When we were kids, we used to go up the local golf club and go through all the creeks and all that and get the balls and sell them back to the pro shop.
Yeah.
Did
you ever have any encounters with snakes?
But you get 10 cents a ball. The pro would give you 10 cents a ball, and then he'd sell them for $1 a ball.
I know. Yeah,
he was making a good
profit.
He
saw you, okay. Round 7. Who was the most impressive team, guys? Before you answer the most impressive team, I was impressed with the West Tigers, even though they got beat.
They were good. Yeah. They had a big call during the game there. Could have got them right back into it.
What about that?
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it, how they miss things like that.
They miss that.
We pick up the most pedantic things and then the one that's staring you in the face, you miss it.
But they picked it up.
Yeah.
But they didn't put him in the bin.
It was kind of so blatant that they didn't believe it. They thought, that couldn't have happened. Why would he do that to a bloke without the ball? Anyway, most impressive team, I thought Dolphin was very good. Oh. We were doing that game here on Channel 9 on the Friday night, and the first half was a bludger of a game. It was terrible, and it was obviously hot and everything up there. Dolphins did enough to keep themselves in it because Parramatta had a lot of ball early and got over for 2 tries, didn't kick the goals. And then when they came out for the second half, I'm sitting there with James Bracey on the panel, and I just watched the first couple of minutes. I said, if Dolphins score first here, I said, they could win this comfortably. And he said, what do you mean? And then Dolphins just went, try. And then went, try again. And you could just see it unfolding before your eyes. They were terrific, the Dolphins. Dragons were good. That was a big win over the Warriors. Gave them no chance. Broncos fast and skillful. Sharks, perfection. Rugby league perfection. They just totally took the Cowboys out of the game. It was like they had the Cowboys wrapped in a sack and the Cowboys couldn't throw a punch. It was just incredible what was happening there. And the Bulldogs had a good win.
Oh, that was sensational. Doggies are going fantastic. Fantastic. Most impressive player. Most people dipping their lid to Reece Walsh. Well, who's the most impressive player?
Well, I love Reece Walsh. Superstar. Absolute superstar of the game. Nico Hines was great again on the weekend. The Dolphins, I'm really liking the development of Lung Sai Qatar. I think he's going really well. Zach Lomax, crikey.
Gus, I know I put this to you before,
and
I know you don't want to talk too much about Origin, which is fair enough, but he's got a compelling case to be picked.
Yeah, well,
don't you think?
We're a long way away.
I know you've been pushing his barrow.
I've said it to rep coaches over the last couple of years, don't be afraid to pick him. Now, obviously, they were picking Trebojeviches and Latrell Mitchells and Jack Whitens and all those sort of players. And there were 2 players that I said I think have got really Origin football in them is Campbell Graham, the centre for South Sydney, who's out injured, and Zach Lomax. I said, don't worry about where his team's running on the ladder. And I could never understand why Dragons were performing so poorly in previous years. But I really had an admiration. There was something about Zach I really liked, about his character, about his constitution for work, his toughness, and things just, for me, seemed to happen. He seemed to make his opponent poor, and he seemed to be able to the ball would bounce for him. He was great at kick chaser. I really liked him. I just thought that, I won't say badly coached, but they moved him over to the left side for a while, and then they experimented at fullback and et cetera, and he kind of just lost his way a little bit. But he's been terrific this year because he's sort of growing into himself now. He's matured where he's become very self-aware that it's, the career is on in earnest and he needs to get going with it. And he's really putting his best forward foot at the moment. And it happens to all players. I call it self-aware. When you first come into first grade, it's all new and it's all exciting and you're nervous and there's anxiousness. And for some of them, it's, there's anxiety and, you've got to learn to play in different days, on different days of the week, in different conditions, against different opposition, in different venues and under all sorts of conditions. It's kind of like, and then it gets to the point where your career's off and running. You feel like you belong, and now I've got to start influencing results, and you become self-aware. Zach Lomax has become self-aware as to how good he is.
Yeah.
How good he is.
Mm.
And now that he knows how good he is and what influence he can have, he's kicking 2-point field goals and he's catching balls and he's taking kicks and he's belting blokes in defence and he's running the ball and he's saying, I want out of here, I'm going to go somewhere else. And, he's really become self-aware. And
Dragons might make the other one might finish last. He's swapping.
Yeah. Well, anyway, my mail is they're going to play him fullback. I don't know what that means for Clint Gutherson, because Clint intimated last year maybe it was time to get out of fullback and play up on the centres. Remember, he was looking for a young fullback to come and join the club. So anyway,
I don't know what plenty of mail. Speaking of mail,
a lot of people talk to me.
Where's your street corner tip for Blake Brayley coming from in the Origin team? He could have bowled me over on Sunday. Blake Brayley.
It was just a
bolter.
It was just a street corner tip.
Not one of those blokes that wash the windows in your car when you pull up at the lights.
No. I always get him to wash your screen, give him a tip.
Yeah? So it wasn't one of them?
No. No, it was a street corner tip. And I'd heard it. I don't ever worry about rumours or tips, but I heard it twice from two different sources.
Oh.
So it kind of piqued my interest.
I hate when you get street corner tips for horses that don't win.
Damien Cook's getting towards the back end of his career and he's in and out of the South first grade side. And Api Coruscant's going terrific. He's going enormous. But again, he's getting to the back end of his career. If they were looking for the future, who are the next number 9s coming through?
Wade Egan?
Wade Egan, of course, is over there in New Zealand. I think he's going exceptionally well. And, so Brayley didn't seem out of the realms of possibility. And I'm not saying it'll happen. I'm just saying he's being very closely looked at as part of an extended squad for the future.
Okay.
That's just my mail.
Do you reckon the Cowboys' form damages Robson's claims? I mean, he's built for that job.
They gave him a run there last year. Well, last year he came into the game to play the first 15 minutes so that then Damien Cook could come in off the bench. And so he prepares all week for a 15-minute stint. After 1 minute, Tom Trebojevic tears his pec muscle.
That's right.
Damien Cook ends up playing in the centres, and guess what, Reece? You're going the distance, which he did and did admirably. And I think he's going pretty well himself. Yeah, but Reece Robson and Brayley are different sorts of players. Probably Brayley's halfway between him and Api, I would say, in skill and tenacity and defence and all that sort of thing.
That's one area they're not lacking for depth in the number 9 New South Wales.
Well, it's Origin. There's no salary cap, mate. If you get someone hurt, you just go and get another player. That's why I say, why do you bother picking your son? Look at what you have done to Kalen Ponga. You wasted my time last week talking about Reece Walsh and Kalen Ponga. Look what happens. Please don't do it to Reece.
Do you think we put a spell on the bloke? Someone wants me to ask you about Matt Burton. I better not bring that up.
The media's a mock. Yes! No.
Hey.
No.
That's the middle.
No. Dear.
Josh Schuster will be recruited by another club this year.
Well, I don't know. I think it would be sad if he was lost to the game. I don't know Josh. I've never met him. I think it will be an important part of his life going forward, and I can't imagine him wanting to give the game away. Whether he has an extended break from the game at this stage, I don't know. I know he's got some personal issues that he's been dealing with. But once this termination is decided with Manly, then it will be a decision as to whether, A, he really wants to play the game and how that fits in with what he wants to do with the rest of his life, and then getting the opportunity in the right club with the right coach to go forward. His next decision is the important one. I'd hate to see him lost to the game. He's an immense talent.
He's still a kid. Like, how old is Josh Schuster?
He's only young.
Early 20s?
Yeah, he's only young. I could talk for hours about contracts and money and kids and being exposed too early and expectation and anxiety. And I can also talk about personal traumas and all these sorts of things that kids are dealing with that we never find out until late. I'm conscious. There is a whole range of things going on here with Josh, and that's for Josh to talk about at his leisure at some stage, or even if he doesn't. And if Josh walked away from the game, all power to him. Use his payout and go and buy a nice house and go and get a job and enjoy your life. That you're not defined by being a footballer.
No.
I think
that's a very hard thing to get through the consciousness of a football, though, isn't it?
Well, it's all he's known to this age, and that's all he ever wanted to be, and that's all he was expected to be. And sometimes just because they're good at it, it's expected that's what they will do. But look,
I suppose my question was more geared around, there will be interest from other clubs in such a rich talent.
I have no doubt that there'll be a club that takes him on, no doubt. But that's going to have to take some commitment from Josh as well, and he would recognise that. But I'm quite sure that the Josh Schuster story, up to this point in time, has not been told in full.
Yeah.
So we'll just leave it at that.
All right. I'm a bit worried about the answer to this next one. Jordan's put this in. Off the back of the Marnie Hetherington scuffle, is rugby league better off without the piff? Yes! You don't mean that. You don't mean that at all.
Yeah, look.
I'll tell you who thinks rugby league isn't better off without the biff as Joey. He said, well, if he'd have let him put one on his chin on the field, this wouldn't have happened in the tunnel.
Well, we've been saying ever since Paul Gallen got the punch thrown on, footballers can't fight. I mean, you're not going to get hurt on the field.
Gal can.
Eh?
Gal can fight.
Well, he hit Nate Miles 4 times. Nate Miles didn't flinch.
That's all. He just happened to hit the bloke with the biggest head that's ever played.
He didn't flinch, and he got the biff band. And then went off and had a boxing career.
No. Well, no.
Yeah, so look.
Little yappy halfbacks because you can't punch them. They get in the face of these front rowers and they give them cheek.
They didn't do that in the old days.
That's what I mean.
No, just one. Anyway, we've got to look after little Johnny and Mummy.
Anyone ever flattened Benny Elias? Like, he was an absolute pest on the field, wasn't he?
A few tried, let me tell you.
I bet they would have.
He gave as good as he got, though, Benny. And he had a bloke called Blocker Roach and
that's
Kerry
true.
Hemsley and Paul Siren.
He had a couple of security guards.
He was giving plenty of cheek. He was giving plenty of cheek.
I imagine you have a go at Benny and... What did you just say about my mate? Oh, no, not you.
It was the last year I played, I was getting it was my last year of my career. I went to a South and I had a young Les Davidson, Mario Fennick, Ian Roberts, David Boyd.
What a pack.
I was given plenty of cheek.
Les Davidson, like, tough, man. But does he have a boxing background? Because he's just renowned as just being a thrashing machine, wasn't he? No. He could fight. Yeah.
He could fight. He was one footballer that could fight. He could actually throw a punch. I don't know if he could fight, but he could throw a punch. And most footballers don't. They close their eyes and their round arm and it's coming from everywhere.
Jamie Goddard threw a few good ones.
Les Boys would keep his eyes on the target and he'd keep his guard up and he'd let him go bang, and boxing training was a big part of our game back then. We used to do a lot of boxing for fitness, off your legs fitness, and sometimes they get you in the ring and sometimes you'd be punching away on the heavy bag. And we all used to love the boxing training. And I had uncles who fought back in the war years and all that sort of thing. So I love the boxing, but footballers actually being able to fight, some of them are terrible. They wouldn't know the first thing about it.
Jack Etherington, though, you've said he can play.
Jack.
What was the story? What'd you say on 100% Footy? He went home and 4 blokes jumped him in the car park.
There's a lot of Jack Hetherington stories. Some I can tell and some I can't tell. But I said to Paul Gallen, like, during that time where Paul Gallen was fighting as a footballer, Jack Hetherington was going to ring him every week. He said, let me fight him. I'll fight him. He was at me all the time. He said, I'll fight him for nothing.
Seriously?
100%.
Why does he like fighting so much?
Just Jack. That was Jack. Jack was... But he rang us one night on a Sunday night. We had the weekend off and he went home to Young and I had him on an alcohol ban because every time there was alcohol, there was trouble. So he was on an alcohol ban. So he rang me up in a bit of a panic on the Sunday night and said, listen, don't panic. He said, I'm going to be at training tomorrow. I'm not going to be late, but I've got a bit of bark off me. I said, what do you mean you got a bit of bark off me? I got in the blue. I said, were you drinking? No, I promise I wasn't drinking. Where'd you get in the blue? He said, outside the pub. I said, what were you doing at the pub? No, I just went there to play the card machines. He said, 4 blokes jumped me in the car park. I said, why they jump you in the car park? He said, I don't know. I said, people just don't jump you in the car park for no reason, mate. You must have said something to them. Oh, I might have said something. I said, so what happened? He said, I went out and they jumped me in the car park. I said, were you drunk or not? He said, no, I was sober. I didn't have a drink. And I said, well, you all right? He said, oh, yeah, I cleaned them up. He said, well, I've just got a bit of bark off.
Oh, that's too funny.
Yeah, funny boy. He got himself in trouble and I sat him down one day and I'm giving him a Beck's lecture. I'm throwing both barrels at him and he's sitting there with his head down. And I said, and the last thing I said was, you can't keep solving your problems with your fists. You can't keep getting in fights, right? You've got to stop getting in fights. And he's nodding away. I said, if you want to fight, I'll take you down to Newtown Police, boys, right? And I'll put you in the ring with a kid who can fight, half your size. I said, he'll punch the crap out of you. Under his breath, he said, he could try. I thought, I'm getting nowhere.
How old school?
He very old school, yeah. We bought a bloke out who used to go, we did some training one day at Penrith and we brought a bloke out from, he used to work at Long Bay with the inmates doing training for the prisoners that had been good, he'd go out there and give them boxing lessons. He was a former fighter himself. We got vision of him fighting as a young fellow and he came out. And he took them all for some technical training in boxing and fighting, just as a break-up for training and all that thing. Jack loved it. Jack absolutely loved it. Like he was, if he could have given up football and been a fighter, that's what he would have done. Jack Hetherington is elite.
Yeah, I know you've told me that.
Elite. When we tested him with all the fitness testing and sports science and everything, he's actually elite. Reaction time, he's far. In my mind, I thought maybe I should have made him a winger, just a tough winger. To keep him out of the middle and keep him out of all the...
Big winger.
And he's quick as a winger.
Yeah?
He is, yeah. He ran down Xavier Coates. Go and get the vision. Xavier Coates scores a 50-metre try for the Broncos. Jack Hetherington comes from the middle of the field and catches him in the corner. Like, he is express. He is really quick when he wants to be. But I love Jack. He's a lovely one.
I'd like to meet him. He sounds like my kind of bloke, although I don't want to fight. I just want to talk to him.
Now, there's been many people in this boat, I assume, but Dale Finucane is...
Well, Paul Gallen, that's a dual sport. He was a footballer and a boxer.
Sonny Bill Williams.
Dale Finucane was unlucky never to play for Australia.
Terrific player.
Yeah.
A player that everyone wants to play with. I remember many, many years ago, I think it might have been Trent Barrett was coaching our halfback academy or under-20s at the Panthers, and he went off to be an assistant coach with the Countryside.
Mm.
Or did he coach the Countryside? Craig Fitzgibbon might have coached the Countryside, and he was the assistant. Can't remember. Anyway, he came back from the country camp, and he said the 2 blokes he was really impressed with were the 2 boys from the Bulldogs. He said Josh Jackson and Dale Finucane.
Well, there's 2 hard men, no?
In their training and their profession, and I never understood how Dale Finucane ended up leaving the Bulldogs to go down to Melbourne Storm. It was a good career decision for him, I guess. But I remember way back then, so I watched both players with interest, and they were both genuine Origin players and very, very good clubmen, great stalwarts. And Dale's announced his retirement, and that's a hard thing for players to do, particularly when they feel physically they've got more left in them. But it's better a year too early than a year too late. So I'm glad that he's done that, and he can be very proud of his career. What a wonderful servant for the game, and one of the real respected by all. Respected those who played against him and those who those he played with. And I've never ever heard a bad word about Dale Finucane.
Lovely bloke.
But Trent Barrett, I'm sure it was Trent Barrett, he picked it years ago. He said, Josh Jackson, Dale Finucane. He said, if you can ever get hold of them, he said, get hold of them.
Well, actually, I was going to talk about this later, but we may as well do it now. So Gal, on the Wild Water Sports website, says the positive impact of Dale Finucane's time at Cronulla will be evident for many years to come. Dale retired yesterday at 32. He says he exhausted every avenue in trying to get back on the field, but ultimately was told by medical professionals his career was finished. This is because of the head knock stuff. 251 games. Now, I had his CV here because it's pretty amazing. Yes, played in 2 grand finals for Canterbury, 2012, 2014. Went to the Storm, won premierships in 2017, 2020. So, was it... Yeah, so 4 grand finals, like an amazing performance. But Gal says, with respect to Dale Finucane and his work ethic, there's no light training, there's no light contact, there's no light weight sessions, there's no taking it easy in fitness sessions. He's 100 miles an hour, 100% of the time. To have that trait, that work ethic is really good, and it's going to rub off on your youngsters in the future.
Yep. Now, the other fellow I mentioned there was his teammate back at the time, Josh Jackson. Now, I got to see Josh Jackson up close and personal in the last year of his career at the Bulldogs, or the last 2 years of his career at the Bulldogs. And even though he's at the back end of his career, the professionalism of that man was extraordinary. He was knocking on the door of the gym at 5 a.m. every morning. He was coming and doing extras. He would push himself in training just as hard as he did in games. He would never pull out injured. He would never miss a training session. He was professional. He was always there. He was one of the only ones at the time. In fact, he was the only one at the time who did his own personal video and did his own personal training. There wasn't a great, trait within the club at the time. Josh Jackson was kind of like a lone soldier in that regard. And then he too, without fanfare, retired at the end of 2022. He just walked in one day and said, I'm retiring. With no fanfare, didn't want any announcements, didn't want anything. It was the first day that Cameron Ciraldo started as coach. And he came in and he said, well, I'm retiring and that's it. And we've given him a job with the club. Now he coaches our Jersey Flegg team, our under-21s. And the off-season he put them through and what he's doing with that team, he's a tremendous coach and he's really loving it. He had a degree in sports science. The Bulldogs put him through university to do a degree in sports science, and he thought strength and conditioning hopefully would be his future. So last year we gave him a job in that department, but he worked alongside our Jersey Flegg coach, Luke Vella, and they won the premiership together. And Josh Jackson was really good. Luke Vella we promoted up to be an assistant first-grade coach. He now works with Cameron Ciraldo in the NRL squad. And I said to Josh Jackson, I know it's not strength and conditioning or sports science, but would you like to try your hand at coaching just as part of your education down the track? And he said, I've never thought about coaching. He's outstanding.
Oh, great.
What he's doing with that Jersey Flegg side is outstanding. He's a future NRL coach.
Excellent.
And he's really warm to it, and his work ethic is unbelievable. He's in there, 12, 14 hours a day. He never has a day off. He's just obsessed with it. He loves it. And to listen to him present to the Jersey Flegg players, I like to go in and sit in when the coaches are presenting to the younger teams and watch how the academy sides are progressing. If you come through the Jersey Flegg in the Bulldogs club into the future and you come through a Josh Jackson program, you'll be ready for the NRL. The senior coach won't have to worry about the kids that come through that program, and we're already seeing that now.
It's Bulldog royalty right there, Josh Jackson.
Yeah, absolutely. Train hard, play hard, never give up. But the kids that come through his program will, you won't have to question their tenacity, their toughness, their work ethic, their reliability, their honesty, the trust factor. You won't have to. There'll be no character flaws get through. And he's quite brilliant, and the players love him. They absolutely love him.
He's a lovely, lovely bloke, Josh Jackson. And
terrific,
so is Dale Finucane. Congratulations on a wonderful career, Dale. I'm sure he'll be hanging around and having a great influence over that Cronulla club. Ricky Stewart coaches his 500th.
Well, it is his 500th
NRL game this weekend. He's been around the place. He started with Gus at the Roosters. Is he Canberra's greatest ever coach, Gus?
No. Well, Tim Sheen's won 3 premierships, didn't he?
Yeah.
With the Raiders. And he coached Ricky Stewart. And I think Ricky would concede that you win 3 premierships, you're probably the club's greatest ever coach.
What a bad side he had, though.
Yeah,
Ricky hasn't dealt with cattle of that magnitude, has he?
Was a champion side.
Yeah.
Was a champion side.
He's a good coach, Rick. We
beat him with the Panthers.
I know you did.
Yeah.
He cops a lot, Ricky Stewart, a lot. He's a good coach, and take the Fogarty situation out of it, for them to have played as well as they have. Well, the 2 games they played at the end of last year when they had no one were great coaching performances, and for him to structure the way they've played this year without that star 5/8 that they might have had last year is a great effort. They've been punching well above their weight.
Yeah, well, to coach that long at the one club, as he has with the Raiders, you're going to go in and out of form 2 or 3 times in that period as rosters change and things change. And of course, had the big one last year where Jack Whiten left the club, and he's made a success of bringing England forwards out and playing very, very well for the club. And he's at times battled without experienced playmakers, and he's given a lot of kids of opportunity during that time. But the one thing about Ricky Stewart was his work ethic. It was how passionate he was about it, how much he loved it, how it was obvious to everyone around him that he loved it. He worked hard, therefore the players work hard for you. And he's been a great coach. But so far as Canberra's greatest ever coach, I think that title goes to Tim Sheens, who won 3 premierships, albeit with a star-studded team. You can get lucky as a coach sometimes, but Tim Sheens put a lot of those blokes together. So,
well, Ricky was
a
huge part of that as a player, of course.
Yep.
He seems to have a really good, he seems to have a real love of his players, Ricky Stewart. You can sort of see it.
He's old-fashioned. He's old-fashioned, and you'll hear the young players when they talk about their coaches, the relationship with them, and that's for the elite coaches. It's the relationship building and personal interaction with the player that's the thing. The biggest thing about producing footballers at this elite level is having them deal with their own insecurity or their own anxiety or their own lack of confidence or injuries or setbacks or families and all the other different things that go about. And when they get to first grade, they're talented. They've come through systems that weed out the non-talented, right? But to go to the elite level and to perform week in, week out, year in, year out, and to compete against the best around, and we've seen in this competition the difference between the best and the worst and how hard it is to graduate your club up the ladder. The elite coaches are renowned for their relationship building, for the spirit within their club, with the connectivity amongst their players, with the relationships that their players form, that they hopefully are bonds for a long period of time, which leads to the environment where, leadership is respected, communication is strong, relationships are strong, motivation is real and understood. Everyone understands the concept and the power of being a part of a team, and everyone is honest in their self-appraisal. Creating an environment where all those basics are important and everyone responds to them and the coach is a part of it that's the master side of elite coaching at this level. And when you listen to people talk about the Bennetts and the Bellamys and the Stewarts and these sort of senior coaches, the Haslers and the Clearys, and that's the Robbins, that's what they talk about. They talk more about the relationship part of it. They don't talk about the X's and the O's and the attack and the defence. And because, to be honest, the head coaches don't coach a lot of that these days. That's done by assistant coaches. They set the platform, but it's the relationship and the spirit and the coming together to fight for a common cause and not give up. And that's where it's that's what they're renowned for. That's the thing that players talk about and remember the most.
Yeah.
And that's where Ricky Stewart's strong.
This weekend, it's a theme of missing big names and rookies stepping up. So Ricky has done a great job at this stage, but no Jamal Fogarty. Wow. Given that they've essentially got very little depth around the halves. Kyo Weeks has been handed the number 7, and I think I'm right in saying that Kyo Weeks is not really a halfback. He's played mostly fullback.
That's the boy that came from Manly, isn't it? Yeah.
So played a little bit of dummy half, but that's about it.
Yeah, he's played a few positions. I think he's played 6, 1, 9. 7's a big job. It's the biggest job.
And then at Newcastle, David Armstrong is going to debut at fullback for Kalen Ponga.
Good young player.
Yeah?
Yeah, good young player. Young player.
But there, Kalen goes, right, mate, there's the jumper. And then at Parramatta, Ethan Sanders has been handed an NRL debut at 6.
Yeah, well, he's going to be a first grader, Ethan Sanders.
Incidentally, he's just confirmed he's going to Canberra next year.
Yeah.
I don't know whether that was sort of in the thinking of Brad Arthur not picking him. But Fogarty, Ponga, Moses. If you asked all those clubs of players you don't the least want to lose, they'd be the blokes.
Yeah.
And they're all out.
Yes, injury tolls. It can really come back to hurt you. And you'll go through periods with that. You'll have periods where you have no injuries, but then you'll have some seasons you just get written off. You know, I've been through that a few times. Your season just gets written off. There's nothing you can do with it. And you can throw kids in, and unfortunately they're not ready. And you know, you hope with your roster that you've got a little bit of depth there so that young kids don't get exposed too early, and that the people that can come in can actually hold their hands up. But in this game, it's so hard. It's so hard. If you've got a lot of injuries and you've got kids in your side, and you run into a good team on a good day, it's an awful experience to send them out there. And it's not nice, and it can be debilitating. It can be quite harmful. So,
with respect to writing seasons off, and I'm not death riding these clubs, but on the back of what we've just said, I mean, Moses has been out for a few weeks now. Parramatta have 3 wins for the year, heading into round 8. Newcastle have 2. Ponga's gone for 3 months.
Yeah, a bit early to be writing themselves off, but he's obviously a big out. I think, you know, he's obviously a big out, Kalen Ponga.
How many of those 10 games in a row that they won at the end of last year were they won without Ponga?
Well, he won the Dally M, didn't he?
Well, on the back of that streak.
On the back of that streak. He had it was like a Jared Hayne type streak.
Well, it was the same, yeah.
He just lifted them and charged them into the finals. Yeah, he's a rare breed, Kalen Ponga. Mitchell Moses, his effect. See, when Mitchell comes back, things will change very quickly at Parramatta. They've changed very quickly when he's been injured, and they'll change just as quickly when he comes back. You know, you talk about the value of players. Sometimes some of these players should be lending some of their money to the other players in their team because they're the ones that make them. Mitchell Moses, the value of Mitchell Moses has escalated by not playing.
Good point.
His value's gone up. His value's gone up because he's not playing. And they've seen just how effective. Like I think the major playmakers in the game are underpaid compared to some other positions, and I think that we've got such a shortage of them. And as I've said a number of times, most of them are in their senior years now and at the back end of their careers, and they're not going to be around much longer. And every club is looking for the new emerging playmakers coming through, and this is where these young fellas get their start. Now, you know, it's hard for young fellas to come into this environment and even survive until they get to 25. You know, if they can get to 25, then there's some chance of having, you know, unless they're the Nathan Cleary type, Jerome Luai type. But, you know, even like you take a Sam Walker at the Roosters who comes on with a bang as a teenager, and then they get this little dip, and then they got to survive for a while. We just got to survive until he becomes a game manager and a game, you know, and starts to do it off his own accord. And, you know, I've spoken about the history and the development of playmakers a lot, but I'm looking forward to seeing how these kids go. Young Armstrong's a good player. Yeah, he's not a Kalen Ponga. He's not that sort of player, but he's a good young player.
What's he? Is he a worker?
Very quick. Yeah, probably in your Dylan Edwards mould, but he's very quick. He's actually elusive. He can make people miss.
So the creativity is. This is all now. The halves have got to organise this team now. Like they've got to find a way to score points. Yeah.
Yeah. So but they've had 4 or 5 different halves combinations this year. They started off with Gamble and Hastings, which were at the end of last year on that run. Then they brought Jack Cogger back from Panthers because he had a good year with them and played in the grand final. And then all right, they dropped Hastings first and went with Gamble and Cogger, and then they dropped Gamble and went with Cogger and Hastings, and then last week they put Gamble and Hastings back together, and they've had another big loss.
When you say they've had different halves combinations, they've been selection. They haven't been injuries.
Selection,
He's changed his mind.
He's changed it, yeah. And whatever happens is, whoever he puts back in reserve grade goes back and shows he's far too good for reserve grade. He's a first grader, so if the first grade side doesn't win, maybe this week this, maybe this week that. But interestingly enough, I was sitting with Billy Slater. I was out at Shark Park on Sunday when the Bulldogs were playing because we had the game out there at Shark Park.
Yes, I was with you.
And I walked into the pre-match panel, was on the pre-match panel, and Billy Slater was sitting there. It was half-time. We were leading 18-6. He said, the boys are on today. I said, they're on every day, mate. I said, he said, they're leading 18-6. He said, yeah. He said, it's painful watching Newcastle. He said, they can't get the ball to Kalen Ponga. They don't know how to get it to him, which is really surprising given that those halves had played with him. I hadn't been watching the game. I was only picking up the scores, but he was frustrated because he was watching Kalen, obviously, for Origin selection. He said he's not getting the ball the way he wants it, which you would think would be the priority in that team, to be getting him the ball the way they should be getting it. So he was a bit miffed that he wasn't as dangerous as you expected him to be, and then he got hurt and he came off.
That's probably the logic in why he moved into 5'8", wasn't it? Like, we've got to get him the ball. We may as well put him up there in the halves and he can get the ball when he wants it.
Yeah.
But then there's the defensive element.
Yeah, well, that's right. Yeah. So, anyway, that was a bit of a mess last year and he had to go back to fullback. And he's an elite fullback. He's an elite fullback.
Well,
Phenomenal.
I hope he gets back in the 3 months because you sort of talked a little bit about that Liz Frank
It's an
injury, which can be challenging.
It's a nasty injury. It's a nasty injury. You know, I know that there are new surgeries now because we went through it with the Luke Thompson thing, and I think Ray Fatala-Mariner might have been nearly over 12. In fact, when I got to the Bulldogs, Ray Fatala-Mariner had been in rehab for 6 months, and it was during the COVID period. Remember, the teams were up in Queensland, and I said to them, "Where's Ray Fatala-Mariner?" They said he's in rehab. I said, "Is he up in Queensland or down here?" He said, "No, he's down here in Sydney." I said, "Where's he up to? He should nearly be back. It's been 6 months." "Oh, he's in rehab, but his foot's still sore." I said, "Well, what have we done about it?" And they said, "Well, I don't know. He's just got to work through the pain and get it going." So I sent him for an X-ray, and it come back with an MRI that not only was his foot sore, that he had spider fractures around where some plate or something was in, and something or other, and the original injury had not healed. So we sent him to another specialist, who then came back and said, "No, he needs a bone graft." And I said, "How long is that?" He said, "Another 6 months."
Oh, goodness.
So I think it was a Les Frank injury to start with that didn't really heal properly. And then he had to go and have a bone graft, which took another 6 months, but it saved his career. And he didn't come back until halfway through 22. So he was nearly out of the game for 15 months. And there have been other players that have had this injury that, 9 months, 12 months down the track, they're still having issues with it. They say it's because it's an area of the body that has low blood flow. But the Les Frank, it can be a difficult one to mend and repair. I think Luke Thompson last year, captain's run before the first game, he hit a bump pad and fell over very innocuously, broke his ankle badly, but also shattered a number of bones in his foot. But he also had a Les Frank, which was the major part of the injury. The bones would heal quickly within 4 to 6 weeks. But they did a different type of surgery, and I think he played in 14 weeks, but he was a front rower. He played in 14 weeks.
Caelan's young and he's got good regenerative genes, Gus. That's the positive for Newcastle.
Let's hope. Well, it might not be that serious once they go to operate. I don't know. There are varying degrees of this. I think there's bone and ligament and just depending on what's happened, but I'm not a doctor.
I've got a good surgeon if you need one.
You've had your knee done?
Yeah, he's good, my man. Dr. David Bro, what a champion over at Prince of Wales Hospital. Cha-ching. Ask Gus. Nice little segue here. Can a team win a premiership without a dominant 7 or 6 despite having a strong roster in other areas? History tells us, rhetorical question from Jack, history tells us no. Makes me wonder why the expectations on the Roosters have been so high recently. I think he's having a dig at Kieran Walker.
Well, he's not asking a question, he's making a statement. He doesn't want my answer, he just wanted us to know his
answer. He just wanted to get on his soapbox, did he?
Yeah. Can a team win a premiership without a dominant 7 or 6? History says no. And it makes me wonder why everyone thinks the Roosters are going so high. So all he wanted to do was bag the Roosters.
Well, there you go. Congratulations. You've got your opinion out there.
Yeah, but history shows you need that representative class game matching, managing halfback. Case in point, Cooper Cronk wins premierships at the Melbourne Storm. Roosters can't quite get it done at the back end of the field. They bring Cooper Cronk to the Roosters. What happened? They won 2 years in a row.
You sort of said that with Walker, he burst on the scene. He did, but you what have you said? He's just hanging in there. Like, is that where he's at? Is he not going a bit better than that?
No, he's adequate,
yeah.
but he's got to break through to the next level. He's got to become a game manager. And this happens. They get there young on talent, and then they've got to learn the game.
Yeah.
And I've told this story many times with young Nathan Cleary in his early stages and that. He would sit there and he'd watch Thurston and he'd watch, Cronk and he'd watch Taylor. I said, they weren't doing that at your age.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
This is what you do at your age. You'll get to that level and he's going to outperform them eventually, or still is at the moment. But there is a development in the role of the playmaker over a long period. Some burst on the scene and everyone throws a heap of money at them. How many have there been that the money and the exposure and the extra scrutiny and the extra attention, they've been put on big, big contracts and 2 years later they're failing?
Luke Brooks was the next Andrew Johns on debut.
Well, yeah, but Anthony Milford, the young boy from Broncos who went to Gold Coast, what was his name?
Oh, Ash Taylor.
Ash Taylor. There have been a number of them over the years that come with a bang early. Benji Marshall went through 3-4 stages in his career. Like he went from sort of 18-year-old superstar through to 35-year-old, veteran, brilliant, but he'll tell you how his career ebbed and flowed during that period. And you're playing against the best coaches and the best players and they're game planning against you. And you haven't always got great support around you,
Is Sam Walker a game manager?
I think he will be.
You do?
Yeah. I think
he's just a brilliant instinctive attacker.
he's an instinctive player, yeah, which was what Benji was when he was younger. Benji was a brilliant instinctive player, but Benji ended up a great play manager.
He did, yeah.
A great manager, So, so he's, I like Sam Walker. I really like him as a player. I think he's going to develop. Hopefully, he survives long enough to develop into a senior halfback. But the senior halfbacks are winning the premierships. The Roosters in 2002 when we won a comp, we had Craig Wing as a halfback who wasn't really renowned as a halfback, but Brad Fittler was playing 5'8". I think, did Darren Lockyer win a comp with Sean Berrigan at halfback?
Yeah, he won a comp with Shane Perry at halfback.
Yeah, so if you've got that...
Andrew Johns won a comp with Sean Rudder at 5'8".
Yeah. Brett Kamali won a comp with Matt Geyer
at 5'8".
Playing 5'8".
Matt Geyer played 5'8" for New South Wales, I reckon, too.
Did he?
Good stuff, Gus. Before the era of full-time professionalism, what were the most weird and wonderful jobs players held down during their career? Asked Jack W. Remember when they used to put the graphic up on the screen and have occupation? And it was always sales rep.
Sales rep, cellarman, labourer, council worker. Council work. What did they used to call the Garbo? They were Garbo.
Waste management officer.
Policeman.
Yeah.
A lot of footballers back in the day were policemen.
Was Paul Sirenin a policeman?
I think he was. Yeah, I think he was.
Can you imagine Constable Sirenin coming up to you and saying you've had enough, get out?
You wouldn't do it again. And some were.
What was yours?
Eh?
What was yours? What was your occupation on the screen?
I was a poker machine salesman.
Yeah. You didn't work with the big man, did you?
Oh, he worked for a different company. He lived with me, the big man.
Yeah, I know.
12 months.
Oh, I know. It's a funny story, isn't it?
Yeah, but he worked for a different company.
What if there was like an undertaker or someone like that?
When he first came down to live with me, he was working with the bank. He got a transfer through the bank. And I was working with poker machines at the time. And I'm pretty sure I got him introduced. I got him introduced into the media. I got him his first gig in the media.
Did you?
Yeah, with, I think it was one of the radio stations, TUE and Channel 9.
But he goes well before that, Gus. He was with 2KA.
Oh, back in the old Penrith days. Yeah. What was the old 2KA's commentator's name? What was his name? Frank.
You'll know.
Frank Lee. Frank
Lee.
2KA.
With the Frank Lee and the big man.
Yeah, and you'd win the player award in the under 23s or the reserve grade that weekend, and every Saturday morning you had to go on the show to get your prize. And his show was in the shopping centre down in just two little rooms down the 2KA was two little rooms near Penrith Station there. And you'd go in there, it'd be really exciting. You'd get your $20 voucher for a fish and chips at the Leaves Club or something or other. That was your award. And you do an interview with Frank Lee. There's some wonderful commentary on YouTube of Frank Lee. Oh, yeah. Great commentator, Frank Lee, the voice of the mountains.
Because 2KA, when I grew up in Penrith, I don't know that I ever saw 2K. Maybe when I was really young. It turned into an FM radio station.
It was on our jersey at one stage. It was on the Penrith jersey at one stage. 2KA, Radio 2KA.
We should buy a radio licence and start our own Western Suburbs radio station.
Well, that's a good way to go broke.
2KA. Oh, very funny.
Community radio. Yeah, Frank Lee. It was right near our doctor's surgery.
What, the gynecologist?
The gynecologist. Dr. Fred Cunliffe.
Still the funniest story you've ever told.
They're all in the one building. Rent must have been cheap.
He's no good with broken arms, but if you're having a baby at half time, he'd be great.
I went there with a fractured ankle. They gave me pills for gout. He's a good man, old friend.
It's the best.
He's a good man, Freddie.
What was his name?
Fred Cunliffe, the champion. I think a life member. Yeah. Lovely man.
Delivered every baby to come out of the Penrith Rugby.
He did. All the players, he delivered every baby. Every person born in Penrith, Fred Cunliffe delivered.
He's the only doctor in the district.
He was also our doctor. I went down there one before training. I had a boil on my leg. It was giving me grief, and I got down there and he lanced it. I bled for 3 days. we couldn't stop the bleeding. I don't know whether he cut a vein or something. I was at training with a towel wrapped around my thigh. I said, Fred, I think you've dug a bit deep here, mate. You've dug a bit deep.
He bled to death. Oh, my God, the gynecologist. He's the best and funniest thing you've ever said.
He's a champion.
He's sure he had a qualification.
He was a champion.
He sounds like Dr. Death.
He was a champion.
Oh, Cameron
Lovely
Serraldo's rigging out. There's no drama.
Lovely
Bit of news. Helam Lukey has re-signed with the North Queensland Cowboys until the end of 2029, but I did see some headlines earlier suggesting that Finucane might be off to the Dolphins next season. Geez, they've got some back rowers.
Did I not say Helam Lukey had re-signed with the Cowboys some time ago? I said it on this podcast, didn't I?
Well, it's just been confirmed.
And everyone jumped up and down about it.
Did they?
Yeah.
Well, why would they do that? You only talk
I
the
don't
truth.
know. I said that's, well, anyway, it's ended up happening.
Um,
Can only tell you.
All right, let's have a look at the ANZAC Round. I'm just trying to find all the teams here. So I like to have that information in front of me. That's a video. We don't want that. Let's just do it the normal way. Warriors versus Titans. Go Media Stadium, Auckland, tomorrow at 2 o'clock. 3 games tomorrow.
Yeah,
So-
wonderful that we've got an ANZAC game in New Zealand.
It is.
Sell-out crowd, Warrior to beat Titan.
And then the big one. Well, they're all big ones, but from our perspective, you'll see it live and free here on 9 from 3 o'clock tomorrow. Allianz is sold out for, wow, what a clash. Dragons versus Roosters. With respect to team news, Jack Bird had a head knock. He's on the extended bench and might come in. Sam Walker's back. Dom Young is back on the wing also. So these teams are close enough to full strength. Gee. I know form doesn't matter a lot in this, but what a good game.
Well, I'm inclined to go with the most in-form playmaker, which is Ben Hunt.
Double the number of try assists than anyone else.
He's actually the in-form playmaker in this game, and that could be the difference between the two sides. I give the Dragon a great chance of beating Rooster. I don't think Rooster is travelling all that well. We know they've got a star-studded lineup, but it's just not happening for them at the moment. They could easily come out and win. I'm not saying they can't win. Of course they can. They've got a great side. I'm kind of warming to Ben Hunt getting the Dragon home.
And they're often physical clashes. ANZAC Day with
which
the emotion
suits,
and the big Dragons pack love that.
Well,
Big side.
They're a big, aggressive side, Zach Lomax playing terrific. The
Sully,
fullback,
Ravalawa.
Terrell Sloan's really coming into his own, They're working hard. They're working harder in defence than previous years. And Ben Hunt is in rare form. His creativity has been terrific.
All right, Dragon for Gus. I think a lot of people warming to the Dragons. Then tomorrow evening, you'll see it here on 9, live and free from 7:30 down at Amy Park, Melbourne versus South. Have a look at these stats, or have a listen to these stats. Storm won their last 7 ANZAC Day games. Rabbitohs have lost all 18 games played in Melbourne. The Storm are looking for their 14th consecutive win at Amy Park. Doesn't look good for Souths.
No, hence the price. I think that Storm will be too good in that one.
Strange that Sean Kepier, they brought him over from Manly. He's had a couple of games and he's been left out since then. All right. Well, this is a great rivalry going back decades, isn't it? Manly versus Parramatta, Four Pines, Brookvale. 2 teams in vastly different forms, of course. Josh Aloiai returns for Manly, and will young Ethan Sanders make a difference? He's been named at 5'8", alongside Dylan Brown in the halves, and Micah Sivo's come back into the team. Sean Russell has been left out.
Well, I think Ethan Sanders needs to take on a controlling role. It doesn't suit Dylan Brown. It really doesn't suit Dylan Brown to be being the chief playmaker, so they've got to get him back more into a supporting role, which he plays with Mitchell Moses. Still, are they in good enough? There's got to be a bounce back from last week. I mean, last week was just too bad to be true. Too bad to be true. It's like a racehorse when they have a run sometimes. It's just too bad to be true. They've got to bounce back. Eels have got to bounce back. But the last place I'd like to be going is to Brookvale Oval to try and bounce back against the Sea Eagles at the moment. I'll go with Cherry Evans and Trebojevic on this occasion. Sea Eagle to beat Eel.
So it'll be deafening next week if Turbo puts the cleaners through Para.
after what happened. I can't remember a team conceding 8 tries and half of football before.
No, it's not good.
Do you reckon they'll pack Campbelltown out again? 5:30 Saturday, Tigers with the Broncos in town.
Yep.
Bad news for all those Tigers fans is that Reynolds, Haas, Biakura and Mariner are all back.
Yeah, but they won't like going to Campbelltown, I'm telling you.
Try Campbelltown.
They won't like going there. They get on the bus, they get on the plane, they come down to Sydney and they put them on a bus and take them all the way out there in the traffic and get them out to Campbelltown. Doesn't suit them Broncos, mate.
Pay the tolls.
Tigers, yeah, they might go the long way to avoid the tolls.
I would. Cost a fortune.
Eh?
I would. Cost you $40.
They say Gary Jack, when he lived in Wollongong playing at Balmain, he used to avoid the tolls.
Half my money goes in tolls. They might go via Wollongong.
Well, the road system around Sydney's terrific. It just costs a fortune.
I know, it costs me $400 to get to Penrith and back.
It does do it a lot quicker now.
You do.
When I first went to Penrith, there was no road. It was a single-lane highway all the way out.
Where were you going from? From Marylands?
Yeah, I was born at Tempe, Newtown.
In the police station.
Yeah.
Which way would you go back then?
And when I first started playing for Penrith, I was only 18 going to university. I was at University of New South Wales at Randwick, and I'd have to drive all the way out to Penrith for training.
So how would you get there?
Drive.
Yeah, but
Parramatta,
there was no M4 then,
Parramatta
was
Road, Great Western Highway.
Oh, yuck. It's a long drive.
It was a long drive.
2.5, 3 hours.
It was a long drive.
Yeah.
Long drive.
All right. Well,
something had to give.
Well, Brisbane traffic isn't quite as bad as Sydney. Do you think having to catch a plane on a bus is going to stop Brisbane from winning?
No, I'll tip Bronco.
Yep. Cowboys, Panthers. Nathan's back, baby. Speaking of bounce back and too bad to be true.
Well,
Cowboys.
Bermuda Triangle. Have they surfaced?
Yeah, I think they're...
Has anyone seen them since the game?
I saw some pictures of them at training, so they've made it back.
So they've made it back.
I think a couple of them missing a limb, but I think they're back anyway.
Bermuda Triangle, mate. They just never got in the hunt last week. They were never, ever in it. And they'll take some criticism and some disappointment out of that, and they're back at home, and it will be a bounce-back factor. But look, Tigers tested the Panthers the other day. I thought they really did, but different commodity now that Cleary's back. So I'm not going to tip against Panther. I think they'll make the trip and win that.
All right, and then Sunday footy. This is interesting. Dolphins versus Suncorp. The Dolphins vastly under strength. Put the Cleaners through para. And then, of course, young David Armstrong takes over from Kalen Ponga at fullback. It's at Suncorp. Gee, Trey Fuller went good. Oh.
He's 27, 28, isn't he? Trey?
Yeah,
He was playing at Redcliffe before they got the licence.
That's right.
Yeah. He was in I think he was in the Broncos under-20 system at one stage when he was a young fella.
He would have caught some.
And then he went to play in the local Queensland Cup. I think he played with Redcliffe. He was playing with Redcliffe when they got the licence. But I
think he's Player of the Year up there at one stage too.
Yeah, well, he'd be a handful in Queensland Cup. Crikey, he was terrific in the game the other night. Dolphin at Suncorp.
Mm-hmm. Raiders Sharks. Our game at 3 o'clock live and free on 9. I thought young Chevy Stewart. I know he had he was put right under pressure last week. He got himself up off the canvas and fought hard, and he had a good second half.
Tough kid.
Good on him.
Been watching him ever since Harold Matthews, under 15s, 16s. Tough kid. Actually played Harold Matthews for Cronulla Sharks. Came from Cronulla to go to Canberra. They bought him 17 years of age. Yeah. Look, Sharks, the big challenge for Sharks is to do what they did last week and do it on the road. Whether that was a Shark Park phenomenon or whether or not they can go and they've got to start beating top 8 sides. That's been their bugbear over the last couple of years and getting to the end of the season and not performing in finals. So that performance at home last week showed their capability. I mean, if they can do that in top-class games against top-class opposition, they'll win them. You can't control the ball like that and play the way they did and not win games. So, take that form on the road, go to Canberra and get the 2 points. And
I should mention Braden Trindle is not available for selection. Daniel Atkinson's playing 5'8", so they have lost a key pillar there.
Yeah, that was unfortunate, wasn't it? Let's go back to the start. Warrior, Dragon, Storm, Sea Eagle, Bronco, Panther, Dolphin, Shark. A fair spray of home and away teams there. I think that's how I'll play. That's how I see it anyway.
I shall see you at Allianz tomorrow.
Looking forward to it. Anzac Day, love it. My favourite day of the year.
That's Six Tackles with Gus for this week. Hope you enjoy Anzac Day Rugby League. And if you're, well, to all the diggers out there, thank you for your sacrifice. And we hope you have a memorable Anzac Day. And there are commemorations around the country, and they are very important. Of course, across the weekend, that'll be reflected on before all of our rugby league games. So make sure you get out to a game and pay your homage to those that have gone before us. See you next week.
This year, NRL on 9 is your one-stop shop for all footy.
That's right, Freddie. Not about the highlights. Action. 7 days a week.
Billy and Gus podcast, get that on your drive on the way home. Immortal Behaviour. Grab a seat on the couch for that. And, of course, my favourite, Freddie and the Onion.
The best footy brains, the biggest games.
Don't trust the algorithm. Subscribe to NRL on 9 and get all your entertainment there.